Midas, everything those dogs touch turns to gold. Right now, there are going to be players in this lobby hoping what they touch turn to gold. That was not true for Joshy-chan last time. They have slipped from first in our standings down to fourth, courtesy of that last place that they just had. It speaks highly for how well they've done in their first two lobbies that they're even still in contention. YLCO trying to pull themselves back to contention after that win, but they're still quite considerably adrift of our top few. However, we do have 9 players separated by just a few points. I'll give you an exact number of points on that one. Actually, the top 9 players all separated by 6 points at the moment. That is so incredibly tight after 3 games.
Yeah, do remember the way the points work here today. So again, this is a system we've been on in here for EU for a while. America's just kind of adopted it as well, that we're going to be having ourselves, you know, the 8 for first place, 1 for last place. So you don't have that big swing if you get first, but you still need to perform consistently well.
You do indeed. That's what these players are going to be hoping for. We've just got a couple more rounds until we start seeing the augments that are coming through. No obvious big 3-star unit drops from any of the early neutral rounds. So the most important thing for me is just checking who's getting towards those augments. Of course, if it's just going to be silver augments, we're not going to be too stressed, but we've seen a lot of gold and prismatic early on in the last couple of days. If we get more of that here, it could be a game changer.
And having a quick look around, see, as you say, if we've got any early 2-stars coming together. We did have the set being threatened by Joshy-chan. Everyone else is kind of spreading things out. Temlozz, they're up to Shimmer Scale 2 already. If they get that first augment in, we could be off to the Shimmer Scale races once more.
I kind of want to see it again, but having seen just how dominant the Crown was in the last couple of games, I want to see something new picking up a win in the lobby, but... We'll see what happens. Oh, interesting couple of drops here. The Nunu being sold, the Diana being kept, an Assassin Crown being offered as we come into a prismatic lobby.
Oh boy, this is what we wanted to see. Coming, you know, we're on the very edge of our last set of the day, last 2 games. It will be a double pickup here. The tomes, this is incredibly high variance for Temlozz. I think maybe they're actually going to go for a... I was trying to think that maybe they're actually going to go for a scale scorn here.
Possibly scale scorn, but with the selling of Diana there, I think we're more likely to see it pushing towards Shimmer Scale, which is such a high risk, high reward strategy with those double term of traits.
I think, you know, at this point, they should be pretty... I'm trying to remember how many traits they had in before they started moving the board around. I cannot do it. But they've currently got 8 in as of now, and I think that's why they set up their board in that particular way, to give them 2 customized chances to hit the Shimmer Scale. I think you're absolutely right. If both of these Toma traits go their way, you know, the high roll here is they actually hit 2 Shimmer Scales in, and they can get, you know, ridiculously far off the races before even anyone else is out of the blocks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but 8 traits at the beginning of the round means that you're going to be getting 2 tailored emblems and 2 random ones?
Yes. It's not very realistic to go really any harder for that from Temlozz, but they've done what they can. This next round is going to be defining, I think, not just for Temlozz, but for the entire lobby.
I think, though, that they... so here we go. They're not going to get Shimmer Scale out of this one. Let's see what they opt in for. The delay shows the disappointment, even without being able to see their face. Just waiting up on that one. That's going to be just a second one. Is going to give us seconds, another scale scorn, but as we said with that sale earlier on, that's not what they were hoping for. Not a single Shimmer Scale. The odds were not in the favour of Temlozz here.
No, now they've got to really figure out where they're going from here. So I do like the pickup of Mystic to go with the Whisper. I thought at least one of their augments they try and go generic, and one they would try and go pointed. So they're kind of forced to go towards the Siphon comp now. Though saying that, of course, we have seen the occasional Whisper Danger.
I knew you were going that way. I wanted to show I was on the same page as you, because we're truly synergized after these
One
last
brain!
Hey, it's going to be great for us when we eventually get around playing double up again. Yeah, I think that's a real possibility to build towards that. We'll see how the items fall. Already having that Needless in there, a recurve would certainly help. Could we just check what the Mirage is this time around, please?
We certainly can. Let's have a look and see. It will be Pirate's Greed. So
fun.
again,
it's fun, but it's not optimal.
Okay. We could also live in a world where Temlozz turn out 2 Mirage Spatulas and then win for Mirage 8, which is one of my favorite comps in the game, because it's like returning back to playing Pirates from one of the previous sets, where you just get ridiculous payouts, but sadly not to be. So we'll see how Temlozz does. I mean, right now, both of their emblems are doing absolutely nothing for them. Joshi Chan, though, they've gone the old traditional route. The cybernetic means they've got a lot of health, they've got a lot of AD. It's a classic for a reason.
Classic, and it's one of the highest win rates out there at the moment as well. I think it's around about 5th on the Diamond Plus win rates in terms of the stats being drawn from non-tournament realm games. I could stand to be corrected on that one, but I'm pretty sure that's where it was when I checked it earlier on. Meanwhile, an interesting fight this one, as the extra bit of shielding, the extra bit of damage coming through for set has meant this comes down to a straight out 2v2, and with Yone only being a 1-star, still going to do the work with the BF. Joshi staying undefeated, pushing towards a win streak as we hit the carousel.
And for this, again, as you said, for Joshi Chan, this is a defining game for them from having their incredibly strong performance. If they take another 7th or 8th in this round, it really resets all of their good work from the start of the day, and they have to fight back from the center of the pack. A position that not many people are going to even be able to make it into the top 3 from.
I've enjoyed seeing the adaptation that we're seeing today, Peter, because yesterday we had a lot of the same 3 comps. Almost every final round felt like it had a Siphon or a Shyvana in it, or maybe a Deja as the occasional one as well. However, today there's been so much more pivoting. We've seen a heck of a lot of Idus coming through strong with Shimmer Scale 9. We've seen a few pivots towards Alshins as well, and it feels a lot like these players are desperately searching around, trying to find the thing which they're not going to have to contest with other people to push them further up the leaderboard.
Well, if you're talking about uncontested comps, I would, previous to our previous games, I would have said it would be Scale Score, which we're seeing being pursued here by Frozak. They, of course, as we mentioned in previous games, they are 1 Scale Score emblem from having one of the most capped out boards you can have. You put that together with an Olaf 3 and a Diana 3, and you've got another world-endingly strong comp much in the vein of the Shimmer Scale 9.
Definitely a nice starting position in terms of traits available, but unfortunately they just haven't got the damage to rip through too quickly. Soulflame will come through, but it's not going to be able to take through the tanky Guardians, and Yasuo with plenty of damage and that upgraded item as well. Free hitting is going to get popped slightly, but not enough to deny Frozak taking a loss.
I think Frozak's probably okay with that. They're on the loss streak anyway, but they're managing to take out a few units with them. Joshi Chan remains undefeated. I believe that was Alex M or Kafuzzled who was just knocked out of their own streak, which means, again, Joshi has the chance to make it through stage 2 undefeated and move into something of a palate cleanser game 4.
Yeah, Joshi happy long going into the final round before neutrals. Have a couple of little changes around. Want to do this quick enough to make sure they continue that win streak, get a maximum goal coming out of Krugs. And yeah, they're certainly going to be a little bit happier. Just a little bit of an update for everybody, by the way, because we are running a second lobby concurrent to this. And at the moment, some of the players who we're not watching include one of our absolute top players, and that is Tiaan, who is now up to 20 points, the most of anybody. Here in this lobby, we've got Alex M, who finished, I believe, 2nd or 3rd in the last game, same for Hyunjin Bot. They're at 19 and 17, respectively. Brubbba and Joshi Chan, they're both on 17 as well, but with a worse win record. Which I find surprising, actually, given how well Joshi Chan did in the early one. Fiskskagg and Decisive Way just below that onto 15 points. Then we drop to Frozak and Stanner on 14. From there on in, it's 12 points or less for YLCO, Slick, Suyan, Kafuzzled, Staig, rovskagg, Temlozz, and Laser Octopus. But those are the 16 players all competing. It's entirely possible by the end of this game, Peter, that at least, I'd say, 6 or more of those players probably were completely out of contention.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole idea. As we mentioned repeatedly before, players in this particular competition, rather than the Swiss setup, they're getting rewarded for playing well, and that will lead us generally to having some of our players pull away from the pack. This game 4, I was just saying it during our break as we were talking about what was to come. This feels like it's the break point to have some of our currently lower ranked players break into those top echelons and really threaten to overtake some of our current top players.
One of those players is YLCO, who had the phenomenal game last time round, but for probably the 3rd game that we've seen them in a row is finding themselves right at the bottom of the table after the opening rounds. Losing 24 HP this early, certainly far from optimal. I will give you one guess, without looking at your screen right now, Peter, what YLCO is going to go for.
I mean, it's a little late for that. It's always a little late for YLCO because they're all about the late game. I mean, yeah, we talked about for the needlessly big gem how ideally you're in a position where you can start crushing rounds and then getting a huge payout from each of them to build up towards the later game. But yeah, YLCO, they've got a decent amount of stuff. They've got the new recruit in to put more bodies on the field, which of course synergizes very well. We'll see how they do up against Hyunjin and whether or not YLCO is going to get a win streak in Stage 3.
And currently lying inside our top 3. We'll want to continue pushing forward as we get towards our last lobbies of the day. Right now, however, they're having a pretty tough time against YL. And yeah, this is going to be a real close one. Aatrox getting a big knockdown, but the enhanced item, that Edge of Night, buying a bit of extra time for Yasuo to hit, and now can turn the attention towards Leona. Hyunjin's going to take it.
In YLCO, they're still raking in the cash. They're not massively below everyone else's. Oh boy, that recombobulator, everybody's best friend. I can't see a world in which that ends up being taken, but that's, you know, while we have seen a lot of extremely high roll lobbies being played, recombobulator, one of those silver augments that can turn a more moderately priced board into something ridiculous.
Did make a shout out in the last game for the fact we hadn't seen too many rerolls, but to get that new recruit, I think that we already saw the reroll coming out of YLCO here. This means they've had to opt in for one of these two. Probably not the most optimal thing just to be able to pick up that Thieves' Gloves. So not quite what our previous winner would have hoped for.
All right, so yeah, YLCO, I think the Thieves' Gloves make sense here. That's just a raw bunch of extra powers, more units coming in. I think for YLCO, the current strategy is to just take a while to lose. So that way we're still building out some amount of gold from the needlessly big gem. I think they're recognizing they don't have enough power against players like Fuzzled, who's got the double Morello set up and a very early Sona. You know, you're not going to win against that board, so you may as well just try and last long enough for the needlessly big gem to pop.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's working out too well for YLCO, who's taking hit after hit at the moment. Fuzzled, on the other hand, must be pretty close to a win streak, which is something that Joshi-chan just lost.
Oh boy, so yeah, let's go see. Joshi-chan, checking the top of the board and see. It was Hyunjin bot who took them down from their perch. So let's see what Hyunjin has got on the cards. Of course, it's our Mirage friends again.
Yes, we'd seen how valuable this Yasuo could be. The enhanced Edge of Night already paying dividends on that champion. Expecting to see some of those items stripped away from the Yone at some point and brought onto a later game Yasuo. But Hyunjin bot and Joshi-chan do seem to be locked into this epic battle up at the top end of the table here for our competition, our qualifier for the Superbrawl.
All right, well, let's go into things Fuzzled. Again, with the double backline Morello set up from before, a huge amount of firepower against Hyunjin bot, who has a burgeoning winning streak here. They're relying entirely on this Yone to get the job done, shrugging off a lot of that damage. I think we'll be able to take out the damage dealer for Fuzzled, then just has to clean up the tanks.
Yasuo still ripping through, though, and is going to survive long enough on the back of that Edge of Night, just giving a little bit moment of respite. Hyunjin bot continues to pick up wins and up against top players as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is Hyunjin, who has been leaning pretty heavily on the Dragon Horde, Dragon Alliance during the first couple of games, but odds of this game and the last game, they've been back in the loving arms of the Mirage again, which is always a pretty, well, always perhaps even more than a solid option, depending on which Mirage we have.
We've seen a lot of very early Dejahs just randomly come dropped over our last day or so. So we'll see whether the gods favor Hyunjin bot in that sense. Meanwhile, however, coming off the back of this carousel, YLCO, yet again, the player who needs to start turning things around very quickly. Otherwise, they are doomed to repeat their fate of their first couple of games. Frozak, who had a good first, sort of middly sort of first games, dropped out of contention a little bit on the last one. Really needs to pick up a top 3 here if they want to push for our top of the leaderboard.
So a reason I'm switching around from some of our players here is that we've seen Frozak hit 6 scale score. The second augment was exactly what they needed. YLCO is also building up the strength of their board as well. They've now got a Volibear carry to push them further on. They're up to Shimmer Scale 6. One more will put them on 7. But they'll start to get that big pile of items coming in before, hopefully, in their case, they end up going into even greater Shimmer Scale heights.
I'm loving reading chat and being like, how many times is he going to call Yone Yasuo? A great question. And to be fair, it's something. I have friends who are brothers, and I will, even though they're not twins and don't look like, I'll just call them the wrong name. So it's not like it's something that's new to me. But yes, I'm going to do my best to get that one right. I'm still preparing for that Yone to be transferred out for the Yasuo a little bit later on. Of course, the Yone, that's two units.
You're just thinking ahead. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Look at that. Yasuo's got thieves gloves on him.
Oh my gosh, what a sneaky peeky fellow. It's just like, you share around the identity on the squad, I suppose, somewhat for YSCO. I definitely think they were hoping for the Yasuo later on. There's still, though, their 7-round win streak, putting them down on 35 health. YLCO, we suddenly know they are willing to play with fire, and they are burning up right now. Everybody else is pretty comfortable, but YLCO doesn't know the meaning of comfort.
Nice items from Thieves Gloves for Yone does mean that they're going to be able to try to pop off a little bit more this time, but the Pirates' greed really not paying off very nicely for this particular Mirage comp right now. I'd say Mirage comp, they've got a couple of Mirage in there, and that's why, despite the good items, Yone are unable to do very much at all. Meanwhile, over on the other side, the Deja starting to rip through the health bars, but it's not going to survive up against that 3-item Volibear.
Let's check in on Hyunjin bot as the little bit of Pirates greed pays off there. So Hyunjin, with the Yasuo from before, you see this board isn't what it's going to be late game, but we've got the Idis coming in to add that gem. Everyone's getting in on the gem action today, rather than being Deja everywhere, though we are seeing a little bit of that. Idis turns up for a second and then disappears just as quickly.
Meanwhile, we come up to another neutral round. We'll see who it is who's able to get big item completions on the back of it. Hyunjin bot probably not going to be the fondest there, but will strike. I was going to say strike gold with the Nunu, but they've already got themselves a 2-star, and they don't fancy any more of that just right now.
Yeah, I think they're pretty determined to end up in Deja here. To the extent where they've felled the Idis, they've got themselves a Xiaoyu as well. But the item set we've got right now for Yasuo could absolutely work extremely well for Xiaoyu. We don't have any Jades right now, but we do have a few on the bench to potentially make that transition if the board strength isn't dropped. I think being on a win streak for Hyunjin bot here is what's keeping them from making the change.
We'll see if they look for that pivot sometime soon. Right now, they're going to battle it out up against YLCO down the bottom of the table. Did manage to pick up a win just a moment or so ago. Onslaught of Shadows does find a reasonable chunk of CC. Looks like YLCO is actually battling this one out pretty nicely. Now they've managed to find that 2-star Volibear who is ripping through the health bars, but hasn't been able to target that Yone just yet. Will die off to the brother of Yasuo, but eventually they're going to be able to take this one down. YLCO coming back strong.
YLCO. Very nicely done. And we will see every flavor of augment this game. Unfortunately, none of these for YLCO are going to be shimmer scale to help propel us even further up this path of destruction. But hey, at least we've got ourselves a gadget expert, a very, very popular tournament augment. Just raw power. We normally see this being picked up, first of all, for just how good it is in the early game. But I guess for the time being, it's going to be immediate power for YLCO over late game potential.
Okay, early opportunity for an ASOL, but not something that I expect to see picked up here. And it's just going to be a weaker version of the comp from last time for YLCO. I can't really see this pushing towards a top 2 in this game, which is exactly what YLCO would have needed to really have a chance in this tournament.
I'm not a big fan of the chances here either. Joshi-chan with a very strong Cypher frontline, but not a ton in the backline.
Not much, but we're going to be able to see the Siphon ripping through a couple of units already. So tanky, and with that Warmogs there for the extra health. They're going to get yet another charge off. Who's this one going to take down? Crucially, not the Volibear, who's still continuing their dominant charge. They get caught out by the Crescendo. Now they're trying to get onto the Siphon before it can take them down. One more bite from the Siphon's most powerful teeth, and now it comes down to the straight out 2v1. Yone with the Thieves Gloves is eventually able to get the final strike. YLCO continues to stay alive by inches.
A small note on Joshi-chan, who again is trying to recover as of this game. You know how I know that Joshi-chan is ready to be a tournament player?
Is it because they're doing well?
No, it's because they've taken the most boring augments they possibly could have. Cybernetic on two of them and the Thrill on the third. These are all the most utilitarian augments you can possibly take. This is just for raw on-board power. I think Joshi Chan is very, very aware that there's a lot of eyes on them right now. As we said, coming into this one, this could be the birth of an international player in Joshi Chan, but they need to take this pressure and use it to mold them into something better.
The 3 players in this lobby who currently are the closest to the top of the table, the closest to pushing towards our top 3 at the end of our 6 matches, are going to be Alex M, Joshi Chan, and of course Hyunjin Bot as well. So really, when we see the battles between these players, this is going to tell us a lot about what our leaderboard is going to look like at the end of the day. Yet again, Siphon coming up strong, getting an opportunity now to see how Frozak's getting on. I think they've just taken a win against Alex M.
Yeah, their scale scorn 6 is going to be scary indeed. Expect to see a big carry put together over the course of the game with that extra scale scorn access. You know, we can see a Yasuo, we can see Talon, we can see all manner of marvelous things, but we will also need to see the Olaf and Diana 3 coming through to see the absolute ceilinged version of that comp.
Well, another carousel, another couple of big pickups. The 5-cost units went real fast. They'll be interested to see whether they're sold off for the gold and the item, or if they actually start to go into the compositions.
So let's go. I wanted to take a quick second to check in with Slicks, because they have gone for the shimmer scale as well, and they are apparently we've turned up at exactly the right time, as they will find their Zoe 2 and at least secure themselves a possibility of a turnaround.
A really, really big pickup, and it actually could. We've already seen them turn their fortunes around a little bit, Slicks. However, this is exactly what they needed, exactly the right moment. Both them and YLCO now still competing along that shimmer scale line of things, but both starting to find a few wins. Let's see what Zoe's able to pick up. They've got the double major. It's going to be final spark first of all, and now we just see another cast coming courtesy of the Spirit of Shojin. They want final sparks, but instead they're getting daisies, and that's not quite what they need. However, the overwhelming front line finally gets its way onto the Daedra, and with the whirlwinds finding the knockup, there's nothing the dragon can do. This is going to be yet another win for Slicks. And by yet another, I mean a first in a while.
I guess if we pull them up past every one of the wins they've accumulated up until this point. For Temlozz, though, one thing I really want to emphasize is while they're not quite there right now, they have got themselves the Dragon Horde. And this opens up the really unique possibility of not just having, you know, we talked about Deja with Whispers. It's a little bit dicey because you don't get the 3 Whispers in, which you normally get from Siphon. With the Dragon Horde, you do have the possibility of playing Siphon as well, which allows, again, for a massively capped out board if you can put it together.
Almost certainly see that when the opportunity presents itself for Temlozz. The question is, will that happen before they lose much more health? Already down to 26 HP, 3 players at 30 health or less, all in danger of going out early. And for Alex M, that could be a real brutal moment because they've been doing so well. We see them now fighting up, the 2 Daedras going up against each other. The one with the Whispers currently on the lower health, and already the Giant Slayer and the Archangel doing great work for Alex M, who looks to take down their Daedra rival. The Tempered Fate is not going to be able to catch, and it's still going to be a win for Alex M regardless.
Oh boy, Temlozz. Every loss taking them closer to the edge. Oh gosh, let's see. Who have we looked at for a while? Kerfuzzled up at the top of the screen. Got themselves a very nice setup. So, yeah, we've seen people building towards this before. The Sona and Corki double carry setup with a Siphon locking down the front line.
And just a quick shout out to everyone over on Twitch chat. Absolute mad love for the amount of reactions we're getting on there. And frankly, you keep memeing on me all day long for the Yone Yasuo mistake. And for what it's worth, as soon as we see a Yasuo, I'm going to call him a Wukong.
Oh my gosh, yes, wow, the chat is pretty spicy here today. I don't even think we need to encourage them this time around to say something silly. They'll just do it themselves.
Oh, I've said plenty of silly things myself, so I am not here to judge. What I will be judging, however, is the board I see in front of me. Kerfuzzled in a bad position after the first few games. Only the 10 points accrued from their first 3 games. They'll need win after win after win if they're to have any chance, but they're putting themselves in a strong position for this one.
Yeah, Kerfuzzled's 5th, 8th, and 4th. So imagine top 4 being their peak right now. means their chances are very low indeed. The March of Progress, something we haven't seen nearly at all, because we haven't seen many prismatic openers, but it does allow for a lot of money in the bank. Unfortunately, Kerfuzzle's going to stall out a little bit here as they try and get towards the late game. They've got a very, very good board with all the money they can spend on units, but up against Temlozz on 19 HP, they've got the Siphon in the mix now. This is now a 6 Whisper Danger tearing into the comp.
Crucially catching on to the Siphon of Kerfuzzle there, which is going to buy so much time for this now Whisper enabled Deja to completely obliterate the entirety of Kerfuzzle's crew. They waited before rolling because they wanted to hit level 8 on the next round before they go into things, before they go for their re-rolling. It hurt them on this one, but I don't think it's going to hurt them that much in the long run to have that one loss.
No, I mean, they're still in a pretty solid point. Yeah, so just a reminder, March Progress giving you the 4 XP per round, but meaning that you cannot force any extra XP to your leveling, means you're on a very static curve for the rest of the game. That money is going to finally pay off for Kerfuzzle, though. If they want to spend it right now, they absolutely can, but they're definitely not going to be getting to level 9 anytime soon, so they'll need to make the most of level 8.
Here we go. This is the refresh that we were waiting for. We'll see what comes through. They're able to find a Yasuo. At the very least, they're taking it away from other people. They just dropped down. I was going to say they just dropped down to 50, but it looks like they'll probably go to 40 here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They need to get to, to as close as maximum power they can get to. The only problem they've got right now is, well, I say this is maybe a problem that people would love to have up against Alex M, is that they've got the 2 stars they need right now. They can't get that much stronger without high rolling a good amount of legendaries.
Highly true, and that's why they're going to be hovering around a few on the board. But right now, let's look at what's happening, because if this is a loss for Alex M, it could mean a real dent to their chances of going higher in this competition. They're able to pick up the win against Kerfuzzle, who's now on a very minor loss streak of 3. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the table, Slicker drops down to 4 health and could well be picking up the solo point on this one.
Oh my gosh. Still, I mean, the board, I think this has been true across the whole of today. The boards people are coming 8th with are just mind-boggling. These players are so damn good.
Yeah, I mean, the Mage Shyvana here is a fun one to see. It's not ideal itemization, of course, with the rest of what's going on for Shyvana, but having that that Wukong there with full items is fun. It gets taken away and immediately sold because I'm not allowed to have any fun. Instead, the Blood is now put onto Shyvana and provide that extra little bit of shielding should they get low health. Will also give a little bit of extra bloodthirsting and a little bit of extra lifesteal, because that's the word I wanted. Flame Breath is going to come out, and YLCO is going to be in a little bit of trouble. Final Sparks denting their chances of a win here. Flame Breath will take out their remaining carry. Nico's not going to be able to do a lot now against the Dragon Lady, and now there's just one mute Sona who will scream in silence as YLCO takes the loss.
I was very excited to see YLCO bring out the Aurelian Soul, which has been sneaking into today's play, just always off stream up until this point. Fortunately, wasn't quite good enough. Slicks holds on the very edge. A reminder of how Slicks has done so far. Again, the top 4 at best. They haven't had the 8th, which really punches their points out entirely, as we've seen with some of the other players. But they haven't had that high moment as of yet, and it may not ever happen.
We are in possibly the closest lobby that we've had all week, though, in terms of players being eliminated. I think getting to stage 5-5 without seeing elimination is probably the furthest we've gone. It's only 32 hit points separating first to last, with so many players clumped around that 30 to 19 point mark. That's everyone from 2nd to 6th. Such a close lobby, so much at stake, especially a reminder for Alex M, for Hyunjin Bot, and of course for Joshi Chan.
Let's go and take a look at the 3 of them. So Alex M, they've got the Aoshin set up. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. Joshi Chan, again, with the Corki and the Sona set up with a Siphon on the front line and the 2-star Bard as well. Slicks does hit a 2-star Pike to go with a 2-star Shyvana and 2-star Zoe as well. It seems impossible with all these legendaries you could lose around, but it's only going to take one.
Only going to take one, but it might not be this one, because Zoe's doing great work so far, helping to obliterate the opposition. The Whispers Deja will be the only thing standing between Slicks and surviving one more round, and it's not going to stand for very long. It got close, but Temlozz did take the loss and drops down to 12 HP.
Yeah, so now they're in danger of elimination, as is Alex M and YLCO. And a Frozak, as you said. This lobby, the spread between first and last is very eye-opening. We're just maybe a couple of rounds away from even having, potentially the majority of the lobby in elimination position.
Okay, well, we've got one more round before our next neutral, which will give us a little bit of breathing time, but this round could be enough to see one or more players taken out. We followed Slicks a little bit, Temlozz as well on the back of that loss in danger for sure. Let's see if the odds are kind to Slicks. They don't want to be facing up against someone like Hyunjin right now.
Joshi Chan, we know that they're strong, though not to the incredible level we've seen from some of our late game boards. Keep your eye out for Shyvana, because where she casts, everyone's going to die.
Tempered Fate doing good work to block out some of the damage coming in from Zoe, but more and more strikes coming out. Unfortunately for them, that is going to be the 700-year-old killed off by a big run rocket from the Corki, and with the Siphon still alive, Slicks isn't anymore. They go out, so does Temlozz just before the neutral.
Oh my gosh, I guess I completely overestimated how powerful that Shyvana was going to be there without any AP. Had some survivability, but it didn't pay off at all. So 2 gone. Slicks, who said, kind of in the middling area, but this is going to be their worst performing game so far, and I think we can more or less say goodbye to their chances of making top 3.
Right, Peter, but crucially, the 3 players we've been targeting our attention towards, Alex M, Hyunjin Bot, Joshi Chan, all still in there. Second, third, fourth, fourth, third, and second, respectively. They take themselves an extra unit. They position themselves to hope that they get these top 4, these top 2, this top spot. And it right now is YLCO and Frozak who look most likely to drop out in the bottom half.
Oh my gosh, Frozak, though, they have got pretty much everything. I believe, let's double check. No, it's not the 3-star Olaf. We're still actually a long way away from that happening. Unless I'm missing something here. Yeah, we just got up to the 6th one. We're not going to get up to 9 Olaf by the time this one is done. It's going to be all about the Diana and the Talon to get the job done.
Orn is hit for Frozak. It'll give it a little bit more tankiness. Almost guarantee that the first call of the Forge God will come through. Going up against Kafuzzled, our current hit point leader. Let's see how they get on. Diana able to dash straight onto the Bard, courtesy of the Shroud. There's not going to be a single Tempered Fate this time. This is an absolute evisceration of health bars. Frozak looking great in this battle. And this is good news for everybody else as they see the top player going lower and lower. Meanwhile, the battle between Alex M and YLCO is raging. Aurelian Soul will keep YLCO alive, and Alex M hangs on 2 HP.
3 players now in a position to either make the top 4 or get knocked out in the bottom as of this next coming round. YLCO, they've managed to hit their stride with, say, one of the most unusual comps. I do think, though, that front and center on these bottom 4 players, mine with Hyunjin Bot down to 9 HP, is Joshi Chan. They're on a win streak right now. Their board is looking pretty damn scary, and they're coming for one of these players to try and knock them out.
Possible to switch over to Alex M for this one, just because they are one of those players who's right at the top, and any kind of big loss here for them will give them that 6th place, 3 points, which could easily knock them not out of contention, but out of the top 3 places that they currently hold. They've got that front line from the Orn. Let's see if it's going to be enough. Up against Joshi Chan, currently on the win streak. This is worst possible scenario for Alex M. Let's see if there's anything at all this Outing can do. It's looking for its first cast. It's going to have the dual gauntlet, but the Tempered Fate strikes just before it's able to fire off the lasers, which is not the timing they would have hoped for. Good damage being put down, but Corki surviving long enough to buy time for Siphon to get another chomp down. One more strike should be enough. The ultimate won't come through in time, or will it? It's time to restore health. It's not enough. Joshi Chan takes down Alex M.
Oh my gosh, and that means that YLCO goes out just ahead of Alex M to help confound things further. Frozak, tenacious to a fault, hangs on as Kafuzzled goes down to 2. We now have 3 players waiting for the hammer to drop.
Is massive news for Joshi Chan and Hyunjin Bot. Of course, depending on what's going on in the other lobby and how many points players like Tiaan are picking up, this could be one of the games that not necessarily cements, but certainly puts Joshi and Hyunjin on the brink of being able to qualify from this qualifier through to the Superbrawl.
I was really hoping that we might get to see YLCO, after finishing out the last game in first, have a strong performance here as well, but unfortunately falling back down to 5th isn't, I suspect, going to be good enough. Hyunjin Bot, They do what they were threatening to do before. The Jades are here. That is such a strong Xiaoyu. But I don't know how it's going to measure up against the Scale Scorn.
It's not going especially fantastically because right now Diana has gone untouched. We'll be able to get yet another ultimate out, but we'll have to battle up against Xiaoyu, who also is just completely and utterly unstoppable. It turns out that when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, something has to give, and this time it was the Diana.
Oh my gosh, Kafuzzles has got to feel pretty salty about that whole experience. Frozak out as well on the 6 Scale Scorn. I don't think they ever managed to hit the Olaf 3. And we saw in our previous games what a difference it made. The Olaf 3 so central to coming through with a winning lobby. But instead, it's down to these two. Joshi Chan's redemption is almost here, Greyheart.
It is only Hyunjin Pot standing in the way of yet another victory for Joshi Chan. Either way, both of these players guaranteed 8 and 7 points. That's going to be enough to push both of them almost certainly into the top 2 as we push towards our last lobby for 2 games later on in the day.
I think it's a little bit of day 1 bias, but I'm glad to see Frozak still finishing out pretty darn well. Joshi Chan, though, even at level 8, their comp is so well put together. That is a good Zephyr onto our friend the Siphon, but I suspect it may only be delaying the inevitable.
I think you're probably right. Corki firing good damage from the back line. Xiaoyu yet again, though, going untouched, managed to get on some of the big targets. We've called this dragon the Dragon Slaying Dragon, which is frankly exceptionally confusing to say, and it's doing a decent job so far. Turned its attention to Siphon or Corki just yet. Tempered Fate going to block out so much potential damage while also offering the opportunity. But Joshi Chan loses out, drops lower on health than Hyunjin Bot, and that was a story of Xiaoyu.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Edge of Night, let's just take a quick look. I'm trying to remind myself exactly of the variation here. So there we go. So the big difference here with the enhanced version of the Edge of Night is it happens twice. And when you can't keep any amount of aggro on Xiaoyu for a long time, you've got the Bloodthirster, you've got the Titans as well, the long-term potential for Xiaoyu is off the charts.
Look at the itemization here for the Yasuo. That is not optimal at all, given what the ultimate plays off.
All right, Joshi Chan, let's see what you've got. We've everything stacked up in one corner. They're trying to focus fire and bring down the Titan.
Temlozz was Zephyred for so long at the beginning of this fight. It bought a huge amount of time for Hyunjin Bot to do all the work that they needed to. Yet again, Xiaoyu's getting great damage down, and the untargetability is just buying time for the Bloodthirst to heal up completely. Titans, of course, completed now. Siphon is going to be the last remaining damage dealer. I eat my words on that one because Corki's still firing from the sides. Does it have enough damage to try and take down the Xiaoyu? I honestly don't think it does. Tempered Fate will block out massive amounts of damage, but Xiaoyu has killed. It gets on to the Corki. All is lost for Joshi Chan. Victory is secured for Hyunjin Bot.
Oh my gosh, throwing them over the Edge of Night. My god, every single one of our games so far in this competition has been absolutely